The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the dark void between star systems. Inside its gleaming halls, 12 different alien species gathered for an emergency meeting. The air buzzed with tension as creatures of all shapes and sizes took their seats around a circular table that stretched across the enormous chamber. Kethvar, the tall and thin Zephyrian ambassador, stood up slowly. His blue skin seemed to glow under the bright lights as he activated a holographic display in the center of the room. Images of a small blue planet appeared, rotating slowly for all to see. "Fellow council members," Kethvar began, his voice carrying a strange musical quality that all the translation devices picked up clearly. "We have discovered something terrible, something that threatens the peace of our entire galaxy." The other ambassadors leaned forward in their chairs. Some had multiple eyes that blinked in different patterns. Others had tentacles that moved nervously. A few looked almost like insects with their hard shells and compound eyes. "This planet is called Earth," Kethvar continued. "The creatures that live there call themselves humans. At first we thought they were just another primitive species. We were wrong. Very wrong." The hologram changed to show footage that had been secretly recorded during a first contact mission. Human soldiers moved across a battlefield with deadly precision. They worked together like parts of a single machine, communicating with hand signals and covering each other's movements. When their weapons ran out of power, they picked up rocks and sticks and kept fighting. One of the insect-like aliens made a clicking sound of distress. "They fight even when they have no weapons." "That's not the worst part," Kethvar replied. The image changed again to show human soldiers adapting to different environments. Desert, jungle, frozen wasteland, underwater. The humans found ways to survive and fight in all of them. They can live almost anywhere, they never give up, and they learn from every battle. A large bear-like creature with 6 arms spoke up. "Surely their technology is primitive. How dangerous can they really be?" Kethvar's expression grew darker. "Watch this." The hologram showed human engineers taking apart alien technology and figuring out how it worked in just a few hours. Then it showed them building their own versions that were smaller, faster, and more efficient. The room fell silent. Every alien in the chamber understood what this meant. Most species in the galaxy were good at one or two things. The Zephyrians were great pilots. The hegemony had powerful weapons. The crystalline beings were master engineers. But humans seemed to be good at everything. "There's more," Kethvar said quietly. "They have something we've never seen before. They call it creativity. When faced with a problem they've never encountered, they don't just use old solutions. They invent completely new ones." The hologram showed human artists, musicians, and writers. Then it showed human scientists making discoveries and human inventors creating new machines. The aliens watched in growing horror as they realized that humans didn't just copy what others had done. They created things that had never existed before. "I propose we classify them as a Class X threat species," Kethvar announced, "and I propose we act before they develop space travel." The voting was quick and unanimous. Every species agreed that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to spread across the galaxy. Far across space, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Intrepid. The human exploration ship was conducting peaceful surveys near the EEE Andromeda sector, mapping new star systems and looking for signs of life. Jake was a tall man with short brown hair and calm gray eyes. He had spent 15 years in space, always hoping that humanity would find friendly neighbors among the stars. "Captain," called out his communications officer, Lieutenant Susan Garcia, "we're receiving an urgent transmission from Earth Defense Command." Jake frowned. Earth was months away at their current position. For a message to reach them here, it had to be extremely important. "Put it through." The voice of Commander Lisa Rodriguez filled the bridge. Her usually steady tone carried a note of barely controlled panic. "All human vessels are to return to Earth immediately. This is a code black emergency. Repeat, all ships return to Earth now." Jake felt ice form in his stomach. Code black meant only one thing. Humanity faced complete extinction. "Garcia, set course for Earth. Maximum speed." Yes, sir, she replied, her fingers flying over her controls. As the Intrepid turned toward home, Jake stared out at the stars and wondered what could possibly threaten his entire species. He had no idea that at that very moment, 50,000 alien warships were already moving toward Earth's solar system. On Earth itself, Admiral Richard Kane stood in the war room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The older man's face was lined with worry as he studied the reports coming in from their deep space monitoring stations. Around the table sat his most trusted advisors, Colonel Amy Patterson, a brilliant strategist with short red hair and sharp green eyes, and Dr. Kevin Walsh, the head of Earth's xenobiology department. "How long do we have?" Kane asked. Dr. Walsh adjusted his glasses nervously. Based on their current speed, approximately 3 months before they reach the outer solar system. Colonel Patterson spread out a series of star charts on the table. 50,000 ships, Admiral. From what our sensors can tell, they represent at least 12 different species. This isn't just one alien race deciding we're a threat. This is the entire galactic community united against us. Kane nodded grimly. Have we been able to intercept any of their communications? Yes, sir, Dr. Walsh replied. They're calling us a Class X threat species. Apparently, they've decided we're too dangerous to be allowed to exist. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then a small smile appeared on his weathered face. Too dangerous to exist, are we? Well, gentlemen, it seems our preparations over the past 30 years are about to be put to the test. Colonel Patterson looked surprised. Sir? What preparations? Kane's smile grew wider. The preparations we've been making ever since we first intercepted their transmissions all those decades ago. Did you really think we've been sitting here doing nothing while we waited for them to find us? He walked over to a wall panel and pressed his palm against it. A hidden door slid open, revealing a room filled with advanced technology that neither officer had ever seen before. It's time to show our alien friends exactly why they should have left humanity alone, Kane said. And I'm afraid for them, it's already too late to change their minds. 3 months had passed since Admiral Kane received word of the approaching alien fleet. On Earth's surface, the planet looked different now. Cities that once bustled with millions of people were nearly empty. Families had moved into vast underground, shelters that had been built in secret over the past decades. The children played in safe underground parks while their parents worked in hidden factories, building weapons and supplies for the coming war. Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Hayes stood on a platform high above the Earth, wearing a bulky spacesuit as he checked the final preparations on Defense Station Alpha 7. The orbital platform looked like a peaceful research station from the outside, but Brandon knew better. Hidden beneath its innocent appearance were weapons powerful enough to destroy entire fleets. Status report. Brandon spoke into his helmet. Radio. Sergeant First Class Tony Martinez responded from the weapons control room. All railguns are online, sir. Fusion reactors are at full power. Shield generators are ready. This station is prepared for combat. Brandon nodded, though Tony couldn't see him through the radio. Good work. Remember, when the aliens arrive, they can't know what these stations really are until it's too late. Far below on Earth's surface, Dr. Melissa Carter worked alone in her laboratory late into the night. The young scientist had short blonde hair that was now messy from days of constant work. Her blue eyes were red from staring at computer screens and microscopes for too many hours. Around her lab, glass containers held samples of alien biological material that had been secretly collected over the years. Computer, run analysis program 7 again, she said tiredly. The computer's voice was calm and helpful. Analysis complete. The Zephyrian species shows weakness to viral infections affecting their respiratory system. The hegemony species cannot process oxygen efficiently in temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius. The crystalline beings require specific mineral nutrients that are not found in most solar systems. Melissa smiled for the first time in weeks. Each alien species had evolved on different worlds with different conditions. What made them strong in their home environments could be turned into weaknesses if humans were clever enough. She began, typing notes for the weapons development team. Across the galaxy, Captain Jake Morrison floated in the empty darkness of space. His ship, the USS Intrepid, drifted silently with all power systems shut down except for life support. To any alien sensors, the ship would look like space debris, or perhaps a destroyed vessel. Jake and his crew had been playing dead for 2 weeks while they watched a massive alien supply convoy pass through the system. "Captain," whispered Lieutenant Paul Stevens from the tactical station, "the convoy's escort ships are moving away from the supply vessels." Jake nodded and turned to his chief engineer. "Carol, how long until we can power up the engines?" Chief Petty Officer Carol Martinez checked her instruments carefully. 30 seconds for emergency power, sir. 2 minutes for full combat systems." "Do it," Jake ordered quietly. The Intrepid came alive like a sleeping predator. Its engines glowed softly as the ship moved toward the alien supply ships. The human vessel was smaller and faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. Before the escort ships could react, Jake's crew had already destroyed 3 supply vessels and disappeared back into the darkness. On the alien flagship, Fleet Commander Vex Thull of the Hegemony stared at the reports with growing anger. The large reptilian creature had led successful military campaigns across dozens of star systems. His scales were dark green with scars from many battles, and his yellow eyes burned with fury. "How many supply ships have we lost this week?" he demanded. His intelligence officer, a nervous Zephyrian named Sectool, consulted his datapad. 17, Commander. The attacks seem random, but they're always hitting our most important supplies. Food, fuel, spare parts for our weapons. Vexthul slammed his clawed fist on the table. "Humans, they're supposed to be primitive. How are they attacking our convoys when their planet is still months away?" Back on Earth, civilian engineer Danny Cooper stood in a room filled with strange glowing devices. Each device was about the size of a refrigerator and hummed with energy. Danny was a short man with thick glasses and nervous hands, but his mind was brilliant. He had spent the last 5 years perfecting these machines. "Admiral Kane," Danny said as the military leader entered the room, "the quantum entanglement communication network is fully operational. We can now send messages instantly to any human ship or station in the galaxy." Kane looked impressed. "How many communication nodes do we have deployed?" 237, sir. Every human ship, every defense station, every underground shelter on Earth, and dozens of hidden relay stations throughout known space. When the battle begins, our entire species will be able to coordinate as if we were all in the same room." The Admiral smiled. "The aliens think they're fighting a primitive species that just discovered space travel. They have no idea that we've been preparing for this war since before most of their current leaders were born." In another part of the underground complex, Colonel Amy Patterson briefed a group of senior officers. The wall behind her showed a 3-dimensional map of the solar system, with thousands of tiny dots representing hidden defensive positions. "The enemy expects to fight us in space around Earth," she explained. "They think we'll put all our ships in one big fleet and try to stop them in a single battle. Instead, we're going to make them fight for every inch of space from the outer edge of the solar system all the way to Earth's orbit." One of the officers raised his hand. "What about ground combat, Colonel? What if they try to invade Earth itself?" Amy's smile was cold and confident. "Let them try. Every man, woman, and teenager on this planet has been training for ground combat. Every city is a fortress, every building is a weapon. If they want to take Earth, they'll have to fight for every street." Meanwhile, Dr. Carter had moved from studying alien biology to creating biological weapons. Her laboratory now looked like something from a science fiction movie, filled with sealed chambers and robotic arms that handled dangerous materials. She worked with a team of other scientists, all of them focused on creating viruses and bacteria that would be harmless to humans, but deadly to specific alien species. "The beauty of biological warfare," she explained to her assistant, "is that the aliens' own ships will spread our weapons for us. Their air recycling systems, their water supplies, even their computer networks. Everything they need to survive in space will become a way for our weapons to reach every member of their crew." As Earth's preparations continued, Captain Morrison and his crew completed another successful raid on alien supply lines. They had developed hit-and-run tactics that confused and frustrated the alien commanders. The USS Intrepid would appear from nowhere, destroy important targets, and vanish before the aliens could respond. "How many more convoys are between here and Earth?" Morrison asked his navigator. At least 50, sir. But if we keep hitting them like this, they'll arrive at Earth with half their supplies gone and their morale broken. Morrison nodded. Good. Every ship we damage out here is one less ship that will threaten Earth. Keep monitoring their communications. I want to know what they're planning before they know it themselves. The stage was set for the greatest battle in human history. The aliens believed they were about to destroy a primitive and helpless species. Instead, they were walking into a trap that had been 30 years in the making. Humanity had turned their entire solar system into a weapon, and soon, the galaxy would learn why it was a terrible mistake to underestimate the species from the small blue planet called Earth. The Council fleet finally arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. 50,000 warships of different shapes and sizes moved through space like a dark cloud. Some ships were long and thin like spears. Others were round like giant balls covered in weapons. A few looked like massive insects with multiple wings that could cut through space itself. Fleet Commander Vex Thule stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Victory. The huge reptilian warrior felt confident as he looked at the displays, showing his overwhelming force. His yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he thought about the easy victory ahead. Begin the attack on the outer colonies, he ordered his crew. Destroy the human settlements on Mars first, then move to the asteroid mining stations. We will crush them slowly and make them watch their empire fall piece by piece. The alien fleet split into 3 groups. The largest group headed toward Mars, where human colonies had existed for over 50 years. The second group moved toward the asteroid belt, where human miners had built small cities inside the floating rocks. The third group stayed back to guard against any surprise attacks on near Mars. The colonists had already evacuated to underground shelters months ago. The red planet's surface looked empty and abandoned. When the alien ships arrived and began firing their massive energy weapons at the colonial domes, they found nothing but empty buildings and automated systems. But the aliens had made their first mistake. The moment their weapons fired, every hidden sensor on Mars began recording everything. The data flowed instantly through Danny Cooper's quantum communication network to Earth's military command center. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Kane watched the attack begin on dozens of screens. Colonel Amy Patterson stood beside him, along with dozens of other officers who had spent years planning for this moment. Phase 1 is complete, Kane announced calmly. The enemy has revealed their weapon capabilities and attack patterns. All stations, you are cleared to begin Phase 2. Throughout the solar system, things that had looked like innocent space stations and mining platforms suddenly came alive. Defense Station Alpha 7, where Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Hayes waited with his crew, dropped its peaceful disguise. Hidden panels slid open to reveal massive railguns that had been built with technology far beyond what the aliens expected from humans. Target the lead hegemony cruiser, Brandon ordered. Fire when ready. The railgun fired a solid metal projectile at nearly the speed of light. The alien ship's energy shields, designed to stop laser weapons and plasma bolts, meant nothing against a chunk of metal moving at such incredible speed. The projectile punched through the alien cruiser like it was made of paper, causing a massive explosion that destroyed 2 other ships nearby. What was that? Vex Thule roared as alarms began sounding throughout his fleet. How do the humans have weapons that powerful? His science officer, a pale crystalline being, worked frantically at his station. Commander, our shields cannot stop solid projectiles moving at those speeds. The humans are using kinetic weapons, not energy weapons. Our defenses are useless against them. Before Vex Thule could respond, more hidden defense platforms throughout the solar system opened fire. The aliens had expected to fight energy weapons with energy shields. Instead, they faced metal slugs, explosive missiles, and weapons that worked in ways they had never seen before. Captain Rachel Boyd commanded Defense Station Cerberus, hidden in the asteroid belt. Her station looked like a large mining facility, but it was actually a fortress armed with dozens of different weapons. As alien ships approached the asteroid belt, Rachel's crew opened fire with everything they had. Launch the drone swarms, she ordered. Thousands of small robotic fighters poured out of hidden bays inside the asteroids. Each drone was no bigger than a car, but they moved faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. The drones worked together like a school of fish, surrounding alien ships and attacking from all directions at once. The alien pilots tried to fight back, but their large, heavily armed ships could not turn fast enough to keep up with the small, quick human drones. Within minutes, dozens of alien vessels were disabled or destroyed. On Earth, Major General Tony Richards coordinated the ground-based defense systems. Massive railguns hidden inside mountains began firing at alien ships that came too close to the planet. The aliens had no idea that Earth itself was covered with weapons. All surface batteries, open fire, Richards commanded. Energy beams and projectiles rose from Earth's surface like deadly fireworks. The aliens found themselves being shot at from every direction. Space stations above them, planets below them, and even from inside the asteroid fields around them. But the real shock came when the human fighters launched. Commander Victoria. Wright led the first squadron of human combat ships away from their hidden base on the far side of Earth's moon. The human fighters were smaller than alien ships, but they moved like they were alive. Gold Squadron, engage the enemy fighters, Victoria ordered over the radio. Remember your training. These aliens fight like they're following a rule book. We're going to show them what happens when humans write their own rules. Lieutenant Commander Sam Davis flew beside Victoria in his own fighter. He had studied alien combat tactics for years and knew exactly what to expect. When 3 alien fighters tried to surround him using a standard council attack pattern, Sam did something the aliens never expected. Instead of trying to escape, he flew directly toward the largest enemy ship and fired all his weapons at point-blank range. The alien pilot panicked and crashed into one of his own allies while trying to avoid Sam's attack. Sam flew through the explosion and immediately turned to help another human pilot who was being chased by enemy fighters. "How are they doing that?" an alien pilot screamed over his radio. "They're flying like they want to die." What the aliens didn't understand was that human pilots had been trained to take risks that other species would never consider. While alien pilots focused on staying alive and following safe combat procedures, human pilots focused on winning the battle, even if it meant putting themselves in danger. The tide of battle began to turn as more and more alien ships fell to human weapons and tactics. Fleet Commander Vexthal watched his casualty reports with growing horror. In less than 2 hours of fighting, he had lost over 3,000 ships, while the humans seemed to have lost almost nothing. "This is impossible," he roared. "Intelligence said they were primitive. How do they have weapons that can destroy our best ships?" His intelligence officer trembled as he delivered the worst news yet. "Commander, we're detecting human ships throughout the galaxy. Ships we never knew existed. They've been watching us and studying us for years." At that moment, Captain Jake Morrison's ship, the USS Intrepid, appeared behind the alien fleet, along with dozens of other human vessels that had been hiding in deep space. The aliens suddenly realized they were surrounded. "All alien ships," came Admiral Kane's voice over the communication system. "You came here to destroy humanity because you thought we were weak and primitive. You were wrong. Stand down now, or face the consequences of your mistake." Vexthal stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. Somehow the humans had turned his overwhelming advantage into a trap. His fleet was being attacked from all sides by weapons and tactics he had never seen before. Worse, his ships were starting to report strange illnesses among their crews as Dr. Carter's biological weapons began to spread through the alien fleet's life support systems. For the first time in his long military career, Fleet Commander Vexthal began to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake by underestimating the species from the small blue planet. The humans had shown they were not helpless prey waiting to be destroyed. They were predators who had been patiently waiting for their enemies to walk into their trap. The galaxy's greatest military force was about to learn why it was dangerous to threaten humanity. The real battle was just beginning, and the aliens were starting to realize they might not survive to tell anyone about their mistake. The battle had been raging for 6 hours when Admiral Kane decided it was time for the second phase of humanity's plan. The alien fleet was confused and damaged, but they still had too many ships. It was time to show them that humans had been preparing for this war much longer than anyone had imagined. "Begin Operation Hunter," Kane ordered from his command center deep underground. "Release all deep space assets." Across the galaxy, human ships that had been hiding in the darkness for years suddenly came alive. These were not exploration vessels like the USS Intrepid. These were warships built in secret, designed for one purpose: to hunt and destroy alien fleets. Captain Jake Morrison received new orders through the Quantum Communication Network. His peaceful exploration ship was now part of a much larger force. The USS Retribution, a massive human destroyer that had been hiding near the edge of the solar system, appeared on his sensors. "Intrepid, this is Captain Nicole Harper of the Retribution," came a voice over the radio. "Form up with task. Force 7, we have some hunting to do." Nicole Harper was a tall woman with short black hair and cold blue eyes. She had spent 15 years commanding ships that officially did not exist, preparing for this exact moment. Her ship, the Retribution, was 3 times larger than Morrison's vessel and carried enough weapons to destroy a small fleet. "What are our orders, Captain Harper?" Morrison asked as his ship moved into formation with the destroyer. "We're going to cut the head off the snake," Nicole replied. "Intelligence has identified the alien command ships. Without their leaders, their fleet will fall apart." The human task force moved through space like sharks hunting in dark water. They used advanced stealth technology that made them nearly invisible to alien sensors. One by one, they began targeting the Council's command vessels. On the alien flagship, Fleet Commander Vexthul was receiving reports that made no sense. His communication officers were losing contact with ship after ship, but not because they were being destroyed in battle. The ships were simply disappearing from his screens. "What is happening to my fleet?" he demanded. His tactical officer, a nervous Zephyrian, studied his instruments with growing fear. "Commander, we're detecting human ships throughout our formation. They appear to be targeting our command vessel specifically." Before Vexthul could respond, alarms began screaming throughout his ship. The humans had found his flagship. Captain Morrison's ship, working with 2 other human vessels, surrounded the alien command ship. Their weapons were smaller than the massive alien guns, but they were much more accurate. Instead of trying to destroy the entire ship, the humans targeted specific systems: communication arrays, weapon control centers, and engine systems. "Disable, don't destroy," Morrison ordered his crew. "We want their leaders alive to surrender." Within minutes, the alien flagship was helpless. Its weapons were offline, its engines were dead, and it could no longer communicate with the rest of the fleet. Vexthul found himself trapped inside his own ship, watching helplessly as his fleet fell apart around him. Back on Earth, Dr. Melissa Carter watched her biological weapons spread through the alien fleet. Her carefully designed viruses were working, exactly as planned. The different alien species were becoming sick but not dying. Instead, they were becoming too weak to fight effectively. "Computer, show me the infection rates," she said. The display showed that over 60% of the alien fleet was now affected by her biological weapons. Alien crew members were collapsing at their posts, unable to operate their ships properly. The proud Council fleet was being defeated by tiny organisms they could not even see. "Dr. Carter," came Admiral Kane's voice over the communication system. "Excellent work. The enemy fleet is falling apart." But the real surprise came when the aliens tried to land troops on Earth itself. The Council had planned to invade the planet, with millions of soldiers if their space battle failed. What they found instead was that every human civilian was also a trained warrior. Colonel Beth Turner had been a Marine for 20 years before she retired to become a teacher. When the alien invasion began, she put her military uniform back on and took command of the civilian defense forces in the city of Denver. Around her, millions of humans emerged from their underground shelters, all of them armed and ready to fight. "Remember," Beth told her troops over the radio, "these aliens think we're weak because we look small compared to them. Show them that size doesn't matter when you're fighting for your home." The alien ground forces that landed on Earth got the shock of their lives. They expected to find frightened civilians running in panic. Instead, they found entire cities full of humans who knew how to use weapons and were not afraid to die defending their world. Every building had been turned into a fortress. Every street corner had hidden weapons. Even the children knew how to operate communication equipment and guide human forces to where the aliens were landing. The alien soldiers, who had conquered dozens of other worlds, found themselves trapped in a nightmare. The humans seemed to be everywhere at once, attacking from unexpected directions and then disappearing before the aliens could fight back. "This is impossible," an alien ground commander reported to his ship. "The entire planet is fighting us. Even their children are part of their military." What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had spent 30 years preparing every man, woman, and child on Earth for this invasion. While other species had professional soldiers and civilian populations, humanity had turned their entire species into one giant military force. In space, the alien fleet continued to fall apart. Captain Nicole Harper's task force had eliminated most of the Council's senior commanders. Without clear orders, the different alien species began to panic and make mistakes. Some alien ships tried to retreat, only to find that human vessels had surrounded the entire solar system. Other ships tried to fight their way through to Earth, but they ran into the layered defenses that Colonel Amy Patterson had designed. "Admiral," Patterson reported to Kane, "the enemy fleet has lost all coordination. They're fighting as individual ships now instead of as a unified force." Kane nodded with satisfaction. "Perfect. Begin Phase 3. It's time to end this." The final phase of humanity's plan was the most shocking of all. Hidden bases throughout the galaxy began broadcasting a message on all frequencies. The message was simple, but it changed everything the Council thought they knew about humanity. "People of the galaxy," came the voice of Admiral Kane, "you have been lied to. Humanity did not just discover space travel. We have been traveling between the stars for over 50 years. We have been watching you, learning from you, and preparing for the day when you would try to destroy us." The message continued, revealing the truth that terrified every alien who heard it. Humans had been secretly exploring the galaxy for decades. They had built hidden bases on uninhabited worlds. They had studied every alien species and learned all their weaknesses. Most shocking of all, they had been influencing galactic politics from the shadows, making sure that when this day came, they would be ready. "We never wanted to conquer anyone," Kane's message continued. "We only wanted to be left alone to grow and explore in peace. But you decided we were too dangerous to exist. You were right to be afraid of us, but not for the reasons you thought." As the message played throughout the galaxy, the remaining alien ships in Earth's solar system began to surrender. Their crews were too sick to fight. Their commanders were captured or dead, and they had finally realized the horrible truth. Humanity had never been the primitive species the Council thought they were fighting. They had been fighting a civilization that was already more advanced and better prepared than anyone in the galaxy had ever imagined. The humans had allowed the aliens to believe they were discovering Earth for the first time, when in reality, they had been manipulating the entire situation from the beginning. Fleet Commander Vexthul, trapped on his disabled flagship, stared at his screens in defeat. His mighty fleet of 50,000 ships had been reduced to less than 20,000 in a single day. The species he had thought would be easy prey had turned out to be the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The Council had declared war on humanity, but they had been fighting a war that was already lost before it began. The remaining alien ships tried desperately to escape from Earth's solar system, but they quickly discovered there was nowhere to run. Human vessels appeared from every direction, cutting off all escape routes. Ships commanded by officers like Captain Greg Phillips and Commander Laura Thompson emerged from hyperspace, forming a perfect circle around the broken alien fleet. Fleet Commander Vexthul sat in his damaged command chair, watching his dreams of victory turn into a nightmare of defeat. His once mighty fleet of 50,000 ships had been reduced to fewer than 15,000, and most of those were too damaged to fight. His crew members were sick from the human biological weapons, and his communication systems could barely function. "Commander," his tactical officer said weakly, "we're completely surrounded. Human ships are everywhere. They're asking us to surrender." Vexthul closed his yellow eyes and felt the weight of his failure. He had led the greatest military force in galactic history into what should have been an easy battle against a primitive species. Instead, he had walked directly into a trap that had been 30 years in the making. Admiral Kane's voice came over the communication system, speaking in perfect hegemony language. "Fleet Commander Vexthul, This is Admiral Richard Kane of Earth. Defense Command. Your fleet is defeated. Your crews are dying from diseases we created specifically for each of your species. You have no chance of victory or escape. I offer you one choice. Surrender now and live, or continue fighting and watch your entire fleet die. The alien commander looked around his bridge at his sick and defeated crew. Many of them could barely stand. Others had collapsed at their stations. The proud warriors of the hegemony had been reduced to helpless invalids by human science. How? Vexthul asked quietly into his communicator. How did you know we were coming? How did you prepare for this? Kane's answer came back immediately. Because we've been watching you for 50 years, Commander. Every time your species discovered a new world, we were already there, hidden and observing. Every time the Council met to discuss galactic policy, we were listening. We knew this day would come because we helped create the conditions that led to it. The truth was even more shocking than Vexthul had imagined. Humanity had not just been preparing for war. They had been secretly guiding galactic politics to ensure that when the final confrontation came, it would happen on their terms. On Earth, civilians began emerging from their underground shelters to see the alien ship surrendering in the sky above. Children pointed at the massive alien vessels hanging motionless in space, no longer a threat to their world. Parents hugged each other, knowing their families were safe. Dr. Melissa Carter stood in her laboratory, watching the medical reports from the alien ships. Her biological weapons had worked perfectly, making the aliens too sick to fight without actually killing them. It was a victory for human science and human mercy. Computer, begin producing the antidotes, she ordered. Once they surrender officially, we'll cure them. No point in letting them suffer unnecessarily. This was the difference between humans and the Council species. The aliens had come to completely destroy humanity, including women and children. But when humans won, they chose to show mercy to their defeated enemies. Captain Jake Morrison docked his ship with the alien flagship to accept Vexthul's surrender in person. As he walked through the corridors of the massive alien vessel, he saw crew members lying sick in their bunks, too weak to even stand. His own crew carried medical supplies to help the aliens recover. "Why are you helping us?" asked a young Zephyrian officer who could barely speak. "We came here to kill all of you." Morrison knelt down beside the alien and handed him a bottle of water mixed with medicine. "Because the war is over, you're not our enemies anymore. You're just people who made a mistake." In the main conference room of the alien flagship, Fleet Commander Vexthul formally surrendered his entire fleet to Admiral Kane. The ceremony was broadcast throughout the galaxy so that every species could see what had happened. "I surrender my fleet and my forces to humanity," Vexthul said, his voice heavy with defeat and shame. "We were wrong about your species. We were wrong about everything." Kane accepted the surrender with dignity. "Commander, your species and all the Council races will be treated fairly. We don't want to rule over you, we just want to live in peace." The alien commander looked confused. "You're not going to conquer our worlds? You're not going to make us your slaves?" Kane shook his head. "That's not who we are. We fought this war because you forced us to defend ourselves. Now that it's over, we want to build something better." Over the following months, the galaxy slowly changed. The Council species, humbled by their defeat, began to work with humanity instead of against them. They discovered that humans really had no interest in conquest or domination. Instead, humans wanted to explore, learn, and help other species solve their problems. Captain Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of a new fleet of exploration ships. His mission was to visit worlds that had never been contacted before and make peaceful first contact. Unlike the old Council system, humanity's approach was to offer friendship and knowledge rather than demanding submission. Dr. Carter left her weapons research behind and began working on medical treatments that could help all galactic species. Her biological expertise, once used to create weapons, was now devoted to curing diseases and extending life. The former alien soldiers who had invaded Earth found themselves working alongside human engineers to rebuild the damage from the war. Many of them chose to stay on Earth permanently, fascinated by human culture and amazed by human kindness toward former enemies. Commander Victoria Wright established a new training academy where human and alien pilots learned to fly together. The combat techniques that had once been used to destroy alien ships were now taught to alien students who wanted to protect their own worlds from real threats like pirates and natural disasters. On the planet Zephyr, Ambassador Kethvar met with human diplomats to establish new trade agreements. The same aliens who had once voted to exterminate humanity were now eager to learn human technology and share their own knowledge. "I still don't understand," Kethvar admitted to the human ambassador. "You could have destroyed us completely. Why did you choose mercy instead of revenge?" The human diplomat, a woman named Patricia Williams, smiled kindly. "Because we learned something important about ourselves during this war. We're stronger when we protect others than when we destroy them. We're better when we build up our neighbors than when we tear them down." Years passed, and the galaxy became a more peaceful place. The old council was dissolved and replaced with a new organization, where every species had an equal voice. Humans took their place as one member among many, neither rulers nor subjects, but partners in exploring the universe. Children on dozens of worlds learned about the war that had almost destroyed everything, and about the humans who chose peace when they could have chosen conquest. They learned that real strength came not from the ability to destroy enemies, but from the wisdom to turn enemies into friends. Fleet Commander Vexthul, now retired from military service, became a teacher. On his homeworld, he spent his days educating young hegemony citizens about the dangers of fear and prejudice. His favorite lesson was about the humans who had defeated him so completely, then helped him rebuild his life and his world. "Never underestimate a species that values mercy over revenge," he would tell his students, "and never start a war with people who are smarter, kinder, and more prepared than you could ever imagine." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had been outlawed by the Council, but by the time they realized their mistake, it was already too late. Not for destruction, but for the peace that followed when enemies became friends and the strong chose to protect the weak. In the end, the greatest victory was not the battle itself, but the civilization that grew from its ashes.